organisation interested in setting up urban farms in cities and growing foods closer to where people live. Started off with a project called Farm Shop, which was literally putting a farm inside a shop so we could bring agriculture right into the centre of the city. We set up Farm Shop as an experiment. We were interested in practically trying out different ways of growing food in cities. The project was very conceptual and also quite simple in some ways, around actually taking over an empty building, working out how much we could grow within a shop and then selling it direct to consumers. But more than that, it created a lot of energy around the idea of urban farming and created a community around it. So the type of growing that we're doing at the farm when we're growing indoors in particular, it uses large amounts of energy. And energy is also used in pumps and filtration systems and other things that are associated with both hydroponic and aquaponic forms of growing. And these are high technology ways of growing food, which can be very productive. The downside on them is that when you are using technology to grow rather than simply soil or natural systems, you have to put many, many more inputs in. At Farm Shop and now in all our projects, we use LEDs, and they are far more efficient than the alternatives out there. But even so, compared to the sun, you're using energy for something that throughout the history of humankind we've never used. We never had to recreate the sun, we just use the sun. So I think our preference for urban agriculture is that it's working with natural systems, it's using the sun, and as in the best horticulture worldwide, it's only using lighting to boost those sun levels when they're low. Yeah, whenever we talk about any agricultural system, you need to, there's lots of different ways of growing stuff. Huge numbers of different ways, and different crops require different techniques. Each of these different systems has a different amount of water use. But generally, if you can make a big generalisation, you could say that hydroponic growing is more water efficient than field agriculture. Field agriculture is the way things are usually grown out in the fields. The reason for this is that the water that's put into a hydroponic system is in a closed loop. So it's basically in plastic trays and it's going around and around and around. And therefore the plant has the opportunity to absorb all of the water. So there's a productivity of an urban farm versus a rural farm. It's the type of farming ultimately that uses most labour. A hydroponic system in the countryside and a hydroponic system in the city are both going to have less labour than open field agriculture. It's more interesting to look at that urban context. How does that make efficiency savings for you in terms of labour? And the key one on that is transportation. Your time between growing a crop and selling a crop in the city can be much lower. The main innovations, I guess, in the urban setting in terms of yields are from multi-tier agriculture, where you're stacking plants on top of each other and using lighting in between. And the yield from those systems that's coming around is pretty impressive. I mean, we've grown Thai basil in a very small footprint using LED lighting to boost our yields, and it's been very high compared to the yield from a field in the same square meterage. Well, I think the first one is jobs. If you can create farms in cities, there'll be jobs associated with them in skills which are not currently available to an urban workforce. And I think in an economy primarily geared towards the kind of service and finance sector, and the third sector, having primary skills or primary industrial skills in the city centre, aka farming, is going to appeal to a different type of person. And so I think there's, alongside that jobs fit, there's also a bit around therapy and rejuvenation. Generally, you could say that people being in proximity to natural stuff and plants is good. The other the other sort of broader socio-political benefits are we connect with people with how food's grown. Back to what I was talking about earlier, is that I think it's really important that people understand how their purchasing decisions affect other human beings who are the producers of that food, and also the energy use that goes into producing food, the impact on the landscape around you when you buy a bit of food.